As Germany grew into the economic powerhouse of Europe, it was often said that we'd won the war and lost the peace. That narrative may be unravelling so far and so fast that we could soon be saying, Auf Wiedersen Angela. German economic might is something I took for granted until Harry Dent's talk at last year's Elite Investor Summit. If you ask the man on the street to name the strongest country in the European Union, a pound to a penny says they'd burst into Deutschland Uber Alles. And for 6 post-war decades, they'd have been absolutely right. Then Harry showed this slide. Our earning and spending power tends to peak at the age of 47. So one of the key ways of measuring a country's strength now and into the future is to model birth records with a 47-year time lag. When you have an aging population like Germany, this results in spending going off a cliff as a smaller population follows a larger one for the first time in recorded history. Just last year, Angela Merkel herself warned that the workforce will shrink by 6 million in the next decade and a half. The Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development thinks that Germany will be lucky to grow by 1% a year by the 2020s. Is that still sounding like the economic powerhouse of the 26-country EU? Harry takes a helicopter view across decades of demographic analysis rather than the myopic quarter-by-quarter focus of the financial markets. But the short-term numbers are starting to reflect this megatrend. Germany's economic growth in the whole of 2015 was a mediocre 1.7%. This year that's forecast to shrink by a fifth to just 1.4%. One of Germany's most reliable exports has been its legendary machine tools. But the Chinese bought 6% fewer last year, and it's hard to see that slack being taken up in America or Europe, where so much business capital remains on strike. Last week I spoke about how bad productivity is in the UK and identified some of the reasons for it. Germany has exactly the same problem, and at least one of the causes is identical to our own malaise: lack of capital investment. It's been falling as a percentage of GDP since the 1960s and has been below even the average for the rest of Europe for the last 15 years. Like America, there's a backlog of infrastructure investment. For example, 1 in 5 bridges across Germany is in need of urgent repair or complete replacement. With interest rates at record lows, you'd imagine companies and local authorities would be investing like there's no tomorrow. But it just isn't happening. They use the cheap money for financial engineering to bolster share prices, rather than acquiring new plant and machinery to make faster, better and cheaper goods. Germany is also falling behind on education spending and has no universities that are regarded as global leaders in their field. The influx of refugees will put further strain on the economy. I guarantee they don't speak German. Have you ever tried learning that language? In a private conversation, Harry Dent suggested to me that Germany would need to accept north of 10 million migrants to replace the losses through their aging population. It would probably take a decade or more for those people to fully integrate into German society and become economically productive. And Germans are still paying the cost of the East-West reunification that started 26 years ago. As we weigh the consequences of staying in Europe or regaining our independence, it's worth reflecting on where growth within the EU is going to come from. The southern states like Italy, Spain, Portugal and even France are basket cases. Maybe the Eastern European countries with their younger, well-educated populations like Romania could offer some hope. But the cosy assumption that Germany will continue to provide economic leadership and subsidy to the other 25 countries is seriously flawed. If your vote assumes that the economic status quo is rock solid, be very careful out there. The fall in profits reflects falling revenues. turnover of leading European companies is expected to reduce by nearly 6% in 2016.